October 11th, 2025. Rain covered northern California like a dark curtain. The roads near Vallejo were almost empty. Only one car sat parked beside Lake Herman Road. A black sedan, engine still running, headlights cutting through the fog. At 2:13 a.m., a passing truck driver noticed the vehicle and stopped. He walked closer slowly, then he saw the blood. The girl inside the passenger seat was motionless, her eyes frozen open. The boy lay outside the car on the gravel road, shot multiple times. The truck driver staggered backward and called 911 with shaking hands. Police arrived within minutes. Officer Daniel Reeves stepped out into the freezing rain. The moment he saw the scene, something felt wrong. Not random, not rushed. Everything looked carefully arranged. The bodies, the shell casings, even the position of the car. It all looked intentional. Then Daniel saw the symbol painted on the driver's side door, a circle with crossed lines, the Zodiac symbol. Fresh blood dripped down the metal. For a moment, nobody spoke, because every officer recognized it instantly, the Zodiac killer. The name alone still terrified California after more than 50 years. Detectives sealed the area before sunrise. Crime scene photographers documented every inch carefully. But retired detective Harold Bennett nearly dropped his coffee when he saw the news report on television. He stared silently at the screen, his hands trembling. Because Harold worked the Zodiac murders back in 1971, and this crime scene was impossible. Every detail matched the original Lake Herman Road murders from 1968. Exactly. The angle of the victims, the distance between the shell casings, and even the flashlight placed carefully on the hood of the car. Facing north, Harold's breathing slowed. That flashlight detail was never released publicly. Only a few investigators ever knew about it. Nobody else should have known. Harold immediately drove to Vallejo Police Department. Rain pounded against his windshield the entire way. Inside the station, younger detectives crowded around evidence boards and crime scene photos. Some believed it was a copycat. Others believed internet obsession had inspired someone dangerous. But Harold interrupted them. This was done by someone with inside knowledge, he said quietly. The room fell silent. Detective Maria Torres crossed her arms. You really think the Zodiac killer came back after 50 years? Harold stared at the photographs again. No, he replied. I think someone wants us to believe he did. Hours later, forensic teams searched the woods near the crime scene. Most evidence had already been destroyed by rain. Footprints vanished into mud. Tire tracks disappeared beneath flowing water. But one young FBI agent discovered something hidden beneath wet leaves near the roadside. A cassette tape, old, dust-covered, labeled with scratched words. Play me. The tape was rushed to an FBI audio lab. Everyone expected nonsense, a prank recording, maybe fake laughter. Instead, the tape began with silence, then breathing, slow, steady, calm. The agents exchanged nervous glances, and then a man started speaking. Good evening. His voice sounded old, but confident, controlled. I wonder if you still remember me. Harold froze instantly, because he knew that voice. He heard it once before during a phone call in 1971, the Zodiac killer. The man on the tape laughed softly, then continued speaking. You spent decades searching for ghosts. A loud crackling sound interrupted briefly, then the voice returned. But ghosts can become legends. The recording suddenly stopped. The room remained silent for several seconds. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Finally, Detective Maria looked toward Harold. You really think that's him? Harold answered without taking his eyes off the tape recorder. It's the same voice. Before anyone could respond, another officer burst into the room holding a fresh evidence bag. Inside was a handwritten letter found beside the highway 2 miles from the murder scene. The envelope carried no fingerprints, only one symbol drawn in black ink, the Zodiac crosshair. Maria carefully unfolded the letter. Her face slowly turned pale as she read the first line aloud. This is only the beginning. The letter was only 3 sentences long, but it changed everything. This is only the beginning. You forgot how fear feels. I will remind you. No signature, No fingerprints, no DNA, only the Zodiac symbol at the bottom of the page. News of the letter leaked within hours. By sunrise, reporters surrounded Vallejo Police Department. Headlines flooded television screens across America. The Zodiac returns. Citizens panicked immediately. Gun stores sold out of ammunition before noon. Parents refused to let teenagers drive at night, and online forums exploded with theories. Some believed the original Zodiac killer survived into old age. Others claimed a cult had taken over his identity. But inside the FBI command center, investigators focused on one terrifying question. How did the killer know unreleased details from the 1968 murders? Detective Maria Torres studied enlarged crime scene photographs carefully. Every shell casing had been placed exactly where the originals were found. Even the victims matched the ages of the first Zodiac attack. A 19-year-old male, a 17-year-old female, same ages, same positions, same location. It was more than imitation, it was recreation. Meanwhile, Harold Bennett searched through dusty boxes inside the police archives. Rows of forgotten evidence surrounded him. Faded reports, old photographs, audio tapes, decades of failure buried underground. Harold stopped at a locked metal cabinet near the back wall. Inside were original Zodiac investigation files. He opened them slowly, and it then froze. One evidence box was missing. Box 14B. His expression darkened immediately, because Box 14B contained something critical, the original audio recording of the Zodiac killer's 1971 phone call. Someone had stolen it. Harold rushed upstairs carrying the file inventory sheet. Maria looked up as he entered. "Someone accessed the archive," Harold said. "When?" "3 weeks ago." Maria grabbed the sheet quickly. The visitor signature line was blank. No names, no badge numbers, nothing. Just an empty space, almost intentional. At that same moment, FBI audio specialists continued analyzing the cassette tape. One technician isolated faint background sounds hidden beneath the killer's voice. Rain, wind, and something else. A distant train horn. The audio team traced every railway near Vallejo. Only one matched the exact frequency. An abandoned rail line outside Napa County. Maria organized a search team immediately. By evening, police vehicles surrounded the old rail station. The place looked abandoned for decades. Broken windows, rust-covered tracks, collapsed wooden platforms. Rainwater dripped through the damaged roof. Agents searched carefully using flashlights. Most found nothing, until one officer discovered fresh footprints inside the station. Large boots. Recent, leading underground. The agents followed the tracks into a dark maintenance tunnel beneath the station. The deeper they walked, the colder the air became. Then they found the room. Small, hidden, locked from the inside. The FBI forced the door open. Everyone stopped moving. The walls were covered with Zodiac symbols. Newspaper clippings covered every surface. And crime scene photos stretched across the room from floor to ceiling. Original Zodiac murders, and the new killings, connected together with red string. At the center of the room sat an old reel-to-reel projector, still running. A film played silently against the wall. Maria stepped closer. The footage showed old police crime scenes from 1969. Footage never released publicly. Then the video changed suddenly. Modern footage appeared. Someone had secretly recorded the new murder victims before they died. The young couple laughed beside their car only hours earlier, completely unaware they were being watched. Maria felt her stomach tighten, because the footage was filmed from nearby trees. The killer had stalked them for hours. Then Harold noticed something even worse, a photograph hanging alone near the projector. Unlike the others, this one was recent, taken only days earlier. It showed Detective Maria Torres entering the police station. Someone had been watching the investigators too. Then the projector screen flickered. Static filled the room, and new words appeared slowly across the wall. "You are next." The room exploded into motion. FBI agents drew weapons instantly. Flashlights scanned every corner of the underground bunker, but nobody else was there. Only silence, and the projector still flickering against the wall. "Clear every exit," Maria ordered. Agents rushed through the tunnels. No footsteps, no movement, nothing. It was as if the killer had vanished seconds before they arrived. Harold stepped toward the photograph of Maria. The image had been taken from across the street outside police headquarters, zoomed carefully, patiently. Below the photograph, another message had been written in black marker. Patterns reveal everything. Maria stared at it silently. For the first time since the investigation began, fear appeared in her eyes. Because this was no random copycat. This person planned everything, carefully, methodically. The FBI transported every item from the hidden room back to the lab overnight. Hundreds of photographs, dozens of cassette tapes, maps covered with symbols, and one locked metal container discovered beneath the projector table. Nobody opened it until morning. Maria, Harold, and 2 FBI analysts gathered inside the evidence room. Harold unlocked the container slowly. Inside was a stack of old videotapes, each labeled with dates: 1969, 1970, 1971, and then newer dates: 1986, 1987, 1988, 1989. Maria frowned. He kept recording for decades. Harold did not answer, because underneath the tapes was something worse, a list of names, dozens of them, each one followed by dates and locations. Some names had black lines drawn through them, others remained untouched. Maria's pulse quickened when she recognized one name immediately: Daniel Reeves, the patrol officer from the first crime scene. His name was near the bottom, no line through it. Still active, at that same moment, Officer Daniel Reeves sat alone in his apartment. Rain tapped softly against the windows. The television played non-stop Zodiac coverage in the background. Daniel looked exhausted. He had not slept since discovering the bodies near Lake Herman Road. His phone suddenly vibrated. Unknown number. Daniel answered cautiously. "Hello?" Only static replied, then slow breathing. Daniel's face tightened instantly. A calm voice finally whispered through the phone, "You looked afraid at the lake." Daniel stood up immediately. "Who is this?" Soft laughter echoed through the speaker. "You should lock your doors tonight." The line went dead. Daniel grabbed his service weapon and searched the apartment carefully. Kitchen, bedroom, bathroom. Nothing. Then he noticed something near the window, a small envelope resting on the floor, inside his locked apartment. Daniel slowly picked it up. No stamp, no address, just the Zodiac symbol drawn on the front. His hand shook as he opened it. Inside was a single photograph, taken earlier that evening. Daniel himself stood inside a grocery store parking lot, completely unaware he was being watched. Written on the back were 4 words: "Closer than you think." Meanwhile, FBI analysts examined the old videotapes from the underground room. Most contained surveillance footage, victims, police officers, random civilians, years of recordings. But one tape stopped everyone cold. The label read, July 4th, 1969. The date of the Blue Rock Springs Zodiac attack. Harold inserted the tape carefully. Static filled the screen first, then grainy footage appeared. A parked car at night, 2 young people inside, the exact victims from the original 1969 attack. The camera slowly zoomed closer from behind nearby trees. Maria felt sick. Because this was impossible. Nobody knew video footage of the attack existed. The recording continued for several minutes, then headlights appeared behind the victim's car. A man stepped out, heavy jacket, flashlight, gun in hand. The camera briefly captured his face. Only for 1 second. But it was enough. Harold leaned forward slowly, his face losing all color, because he recognized the man instantly, not from old wanted posters, not from police sketches, from somewhere personal, somewhere recent. Maria looked toward him carefully. "Harold," his voice barely worked, "I know him." The room went silent. Harold stared at the frozen image on the screen, then whispered the words nobody expected to hear. He was a police officer. The room fell completely silent. Maria stared at Harold in disbelief. "A police officer?" she repeated. Harold nodded slowly without taking his eyes off the screen. The frozen image showed the killer stepping from darkness beside the car, blurry, grainy, but recognizable, at least to Harold. "I worked with him once," Harold whispered. "Napa County Sheriff's Department. Early 70s. Maria stepped closer. What was his name? Harold hesitated, then answered quietly, Thomas Avery. FBI agents immediately searched every database they had. Former officer, transferred multiple times across Northern California during the Zodiac murders. Disciplinary reports missing, personnel records incomplete, and in 1974, Thomas Avery vanished completely, officially declared dead after a boating accident. But no body was ever recovered. Maria looked back toward the screen. You think Avery was Zodiac? Harold's expression remained tense. No. That answer surprised everyone. Harold pointed toward the footage. I think Avery worked with him. The room turned colder, because that meant the impossible might be true. The Zodiac killer may never have acted alone. Meanwhile, another emergency call came through police dispatch, this time near Blue Rock Springs Park, only miles away from the original 1969 Zodiac attack. Maria and the FBI rushed there immediately. Red and blue lights flashed through the darkness. Rain poured harder than before. When Maria stepped beyond the police tape, her heart nearly stopped. Another couple, another parked car, another execution. The victims had been shot exactly like the Blue Rock Springs murders decades earlier. Even the ammunition matched. 9mm rounds, vintage type, nearly impossible to find today. Detectives searched the scene frantically. Then Officer Reeves shouted from near the roadside, "There's something here." Maria hurried toward him. A black hood rested carefully beside a tree, the same style Zodiac reportedly wore during the Lake Berryessa attack in 1969. Crosshair symbols stitched into the fabric. But inside the hood, they found fresh DNA. For the first time, investigators finally had something real. The evidence was rushed to the FBI lab overnight. Everyone waited anxiously for results. Meanwhile, news of the second murder spread across America. Panic intensified instantly. Curfews were announced across several counties. Stores closed early. Teenagers stopped driving at night. Every media station repeated the same terrifying phrase, "The Zodiac has returned." Harold sat alone in the investigation office long after midnight. Stacks of old case files surrounded him. He replayed the old videotape again and again, watching Thomas Avery move through the darkness beside the victim's car. Then Harold noticed something strange. Avery was looking somewhere off camera, not at the victims, at someone else. Harold paused the tape carefully, then zoomed into the reflection on the car window. Another figure stood deeper in the trees, watching silently, tall, thin, face hidden, the real killer. Harold immediately called Maria. "You need to see this." Minutes later, the investigation team crowded around the monitor. Maria studied the hidden figure carefully. "Can you enhance it?" FBI technicians sharpened the image slowly, pixel by pixel. Everyone leaned closer. Then the figure's face finally became visible. A woman. The room went silent again. Maria blinked in disbelief. "You're telling me a woman was involved?" Harold looked disturbed. "I don't know what I'm telling you anymore." Before anyone could respond, alarms suddenly erupted across the FBI lab. Agents rushed into the hallway. One technician sprinted toward Maria holding fresh DNA results, his face pale, shaking. The DNA from the hood matched someone. Maria grabbed the report immediately, then froze because the name on the file belonged to a current FBI employee, Special Agent Lucas Grant, one of the lead investigators on the Zodiac task force. And at that exact moment, Lucas Grant was gone, his desk abandoned, his phone disconnected, and security cameras showed him leaving the building 1 hour earlier carrying a large black case. The FBI building locked down immediately. Agents flooded the parking garage, roadblocks surrounded every exit in Vallejo. But Lucas Grant had vanished. Maria stormed into the surveillance room. Security footage played across multiple screens. Lucas appeared calm as he walked through the hallway carrying the black case. No panic, and no rush, almost like he knew nobody would stop him. The timestamp showed he left exactly 12 minutes before the DNA results arrived. "He knew we would find him," Maria said quietly. Harold watched the footage carefully. Then his eyes narrowed. "Rewind that." The technician rolled the video back several seconds. Lucas paused briefly near the elevator mirror, only for a moment, but enough to reveal something hidden beneath his sleeve. A tattoo. The Zodiac crosshair burned directly into his skin. Maria felt a chill move through her chest. This was no ordinary obsession. This was loyalty. Meanwhile, agents searched Lucas Grant's apartment across town. The place looked normal at first glance. Clean kitchen, organized bookshelves, family photographs. But inside a locked basement room, investigators found something horrifying. On walls covered in newspaper clippings from every Zodiac murder. Victim photographs, police maps, encrypted messages, and dozens of cassette tapes labeled with years stretching back decades. Maria stepped deeper into the room slowly. Then she noticed an old photograph hanging beside the evidence board. A younger Lucas Grant stood beside another man, Thomas Avery, the former police officer from the old footage. Maria stared at the picture. How old is this? An FBI analyst checked the back carefully. 1989. Harold looked disturbed. That's impossible, because Lucas Grant was only a child during the original Zodiac murders, which meant one terrifying possibility. Someone trained him. The investigation deepened further when agents discovered another hidden compartment beneath the basement floor. Inside rested old medical files, adoption papers, and one birth certificate. Maria unfolded the document carefully. Mother's name, Evelyn Grant. Father's name section was blank, but below it sat a handwritten sentence. Father unknown, possible relation to Thomas Avery. Harold slowly sat down, his face pale. Avery had a son. Maria shook her head. No. She lifted another paper from the box, a psychiatric report. The patient name read Lucas Grant Avery. Lucas had changed his name years earlier. The room remained silent. Then another agent entered quickly, carrying new information. You need to hear this. He connected a recovered cassette tape to the speakers. Static filled the room. Then Lucas Grant's voice emerged, calm, controlled. If you're hearing this, then you finally found the truth. Maria listened carefully. You spent 50 years hunting a ghost. Soft laughter echoed through the recording. But Zodiac was never one man. Harold closed his eyes slowly. The tape continued. It was an idea, a symbol, an identity passed from one generation to another. Maria felt cold, because the theory sounded insane, yet every piece of evidence pointed toward it. Lucas kept speaking. My father taught me the rules. Fear creates immortality, and legends never die. The tape suddenly stopped, but another sound followed immediately afterward. A phone ringing inside the evidence room. Everyone turned toward it. One old rotary telephone sat alone on a nearby desk, disconnected for years, yet now it rang loudly. Once, twice, 3 times. Nobody moved. Finally, Harold answered it slowly. Silence waited on the other side. Then a familiar old voice whispered through the receiver. You're getting closer. Harold's hands trembled instantly. The original voice from the tapes, the same calm breathing, the same controlled tone. The Zodiac killer, still alive. Then the voice spoke again. Tell Maria to check her home. The line went dead. Maria's blood froze. She immediately rushed outside with FBI agents following behind her. Police cars sped through rain-covered streets toward her house. When they arrived, the front door stood open. Lights flickered inside. Maria entered carefully with her weapon raised. The house looked untouched, silent, until she reached the living room. Then she stopped breathing. A large Zodiac symbol had been painted across the wall in blood, and beneath it sat a single chair facing the television. On the screen played live security footage from inside the FBI headquarters. Someone was still watching them. Maria stared at the television screen in shock. The live FBI camera feed flickered silently across the monitor. Hallways, evidence rooms, parking garages. Someone had access to everything. An agent unplugged the television immediately, but the screen remained active for 3 more seconds before finally dying. Harold entered the house moments later. His face turned pale when he saw the blood-painted Zodiac symbol across the wall. He wants you scared, Harold said quietly. Maria looked around the room carefully. No, she replied. He wants us distracted. Crime scene teams searched the house through the night. No fingerprints, no forced entry, nothing stolen. Only one thing seemed out of place. A dusty videotape resting beneath Maria's couch. No label, no fingerprints. Harold held it carefully. Another message. Back at FBI headquarters, technicians inserted the tape into an isolated player. Static covered the screen, then an image slowly appeared. A dimly lit room, concrete walls, a metal chair, and sitting in the chair was Lucas Grant. Alive. Bruised, breathing heavily. Maria stepped closer to the screen. Is this live? The timestamp in the corner showed the current date. Lucas lifted his head slowly. Fear filled his eyes, then a voice echoed from somewhere behind the camera. You were never supposed to find us this quickly. The voice belonged to the old man from the cassette recordings, the same voice Harold recognized decades earlier, the Zodiac killer. Lucas looked directly into the camera. "Og, you have to listen carefully," he whispered. "They're planning another attack tonight." Maria immediately grabbed a notepad. Where? But Lucas suddenly stopped talking. His expression changed instantly, like he noticed someone entering the room. Then another figure stepped into view beside him. A woman. Older, gray-haired, calm. Harold's face lost all color the moment he saw her. "No." Maria turned toward him. "You know her too?" Harold barely managed to speak. "Evelyn Grant, Lucas's mother." The woman moved closer to the camera slowly. Unlike Lucas, she showed no fear, only control. "You spent years searching for monsters," she said softly. "But monsters grow inside ordinary families." Maria stared at the screen carefully. Evelyn smiled faintly. "You still think Zodiac was one person?" Behind her, the concrete wall carried dozens of Zodiac symbols painted in black. Then Evelyn stepped aside, and the camera revealed something horrifying. 6 empty chairs arranged in a circle. Each chair carried a different Zodiac symbol variation. Harold's breathing slowed. There were more of them. Evelyn nodded gently toward the camera. "Always." Suddenly, Lucas lunged forward in panic. "They're going after the survivor." The screen instantly cut to static. Maria looked at Harold immediately. The survivor from the original attacks. Harold already knew who Lucas meant. Michael Renner. The only surviving victim connected to the original Blue Rock Springs shooting, now 74 years old. Living in a private medical facility outside Napa, Maria ordered every nearby unit to move immediately. Police vehicles raced through the storm-covered highways. Meanwhile, inside the quiet medical facility, Michael Renner slept peacefully beneath dim hospital lights. A nurse walked past his room around 1:17 a.m., then paused. Because Michael's door stood open, she stepped inside slowly and screamed. Police arrived minutes later. Michael Renner was gone. No signs of struggle, only a Zodiac symbol painted across the hospital window. But investigators found something else inside the room. A tape recorder still playing. Maria pressed stop immediately, but Harold grabbed her wrist. "Wait." The tape rewound automatically by itself. Then Michael's weak voice filled the room. "If they took me..." Static crackled loudly, then the old man continued speaking shakily. "Tell Harold the truth about the girl in the woods." Harold froze instantly. Aunt Maria looked at him carefully. "What girl?" Harold stared at the tape recorder silently. Because there was one victim investigators never connected officially to the Zodiac case. A teenage girl found dead in the woods near Napa in 1972. The case disappeared mysteriously, and Harold buried the evidence himself. The words on the tape hung in the air long after it stopped. "Tell Harold the truth about the girl in the woods." Maria turned slowly toward him. Who was she? Harold didn't answer at first. His hands were clenched tightly, like he was holding back something he had carried for decades. Then he finally spoke. Her name was Claire Donovan. The room went quiet. Harold continued. 1972, Napa County. I was still working Zodiac leads back then. He exhaled slowly. She was found in a wooded area near Silverado Trail. Maria studied him closely. What does she have to do with this? Harold looked at the table. Officially, nothing. Then he looked up. But unofficially, she was the first mistake. Before Maria could respond, an FBI agent rushed into the room. "We've got movement on Michael Renner's transport route." Maria snapped instantly. "Where?" "Northern Highway. Vehicle stopped responding 10 minutes ago." Harold stood up immediately. "He's already been taken." Maria grabbed her gear. "Move." Within minutes, FBI units were speeding through rain-soaked roads again. Headlights cut through thick fog. Sirens echoed across empty valleys. But halfway to the route, they found the transport van, doors wide open, engine still running. No driver, no guards, only the passenger restraints hanging loose. In and inside the van, a single cassette tape placed neatly on the seat. Maria stared at it. "He's leaving us clues now." Harold picked it up carefully. "This isn't clues," he said quietly. "It's a confession trail." Back at the command center, the tape was played immediately. Static filled the speakers. Then Michael Renner's voice emerged, weak, shaking. "They're not hiding anymore." A pause, then heavy breathing. "They want you to remember her." Maria leaned forward. "Claire Donovan again." Harold's face tightened, but the recording continued. "They said she saw too much." Suddenly, another voice entered the tape. Calm, cold, controlled. Evelyn Grant. She was never supposed to leave the woods. Maria's expression hardened. So she was killed because she witnessed something. Harold shook his head slowly. "It's worse than that." The tape clicked, then shifted into a different recording. Older, distorted. A conversation between multiple voices, one of them unmistakably Thomas Avery. "She saw the circle. She knows the system. If she talks, everything collapses." Maria looked confused. "What system?" Harold didn't answer, because he was already remembering. A classified report, locked away in 1973, never submitted officially, only written by him. It described strange coordination between multiple suspects across different Zodiac-linked crime scenes. Different handwriting styles, different weapon types, different behavioral patterns. But the same symbol, the same communication method, the same signature, the Zodiac crosshair, Harold whispered. "It was never random." Maria looked at him sharply. "What wasn't random?" Harold finally said it. "The murders were assignments." Before anyone could respond, every monitor in the command center suddenly flickered, then turned black. Silence filled the room. Then one by one, screens reactivated, all showing the same live feed. A large underground chamber, and inside it, Michael Renner sitting in a chair. Alive, tied, breathing heavily. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood 6 shadowed figures, each wearing variations of the Zodiac symbol. Different clothing, different ages, different identities, but all calm, controlled, watching the camera. Then Evelyn Grant stepped forward into full view. She looked directly into the camera and spoke. "You finally reached the center," Maria whispered. "This is a group." Harold shook his head slowly. "No." His voice lowered. "It's worse," Evelyn continued. "Every generation needs fear. And fear needs a name." She looked at Michael Renner. "And you've protected the wrong truth for too long." Michael struggled against the restraints. "You're all insane." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Insanity is believing there was only ever one of us." Then she leaned closer to the camera. "And now, the circle is complete." The feed abruptly cut to static, but before it ended, one final image flashed on screen. A map, with multiple cities marked, and every mark was moving, northward, converging, towards one final point. Maria stared at the map. "Where is that?" Harold's face went pale, because he recognized the location immediately. It was the original Zodiac Lake Herman Road crime scene, but updated, reconstructed, reopened, and scheduled for tonight. The command center erupted into chaos. Maria slammed her hand on the table. "Get every unit to Lake Herman Road now." Sirens were already echoing across dispatch channels. But Harold didn't move. He was staring at the map on the screen. Something felt wrong. Too coordinated, too precise. "This isn't just a reunion," he said quietly. Maria looked at him. "Then what is it?" Harold pointed at the moving markers on the map. "Look at the convergence pattern." Technicians zoomed in. Every marked location wasn't just moving toward Lake Herman Road. They were arriving at exact intervals, timed, synchronized, like a schedule. Maria's voice lowered. They're organizing it like an event. Harold nodded. A ceremony. At that moment, an encrypted message appeared across every FBI monitor. No source, no trace, just text appearing in real time. "Welcome back." Maria stepped back slightly. "This is internal access," but Harold interrupted. "No." His eyes narrowed. "This is older than our system." The screen changed again. A live feed returned. Lake Herman Road. But it wasn't empty. Floodlights had been set up across the old murder site. The same location, rebuilt exactly as it looked in 1968. Police barricades surrounded the area, but not standard police. Dozens of unmarked personnel stood in formation, all wearing black jackets, each with a small Zodiac symbol stitched near the collar. Maria's voice tightened. "They're already there." Harold stared at the screen. "No." Then he pointed. "Look closer." In the center of the recreated crime scene stood a platform. On it sat Michael Renner, alive, bound to a chair, surrounded by cameras, like an audience was expected. Then Evelyn Grant stepped into frame. She raised her hand slightly, and all movement stopped. Even the wind felt silent. Evelyn spoke calmly. "For 50 years, you called it chaos. But it was structure." Behind her, the 6 figures from earlier stood in a half circle, each one now clearly visible. Different ages, different genders, different faces, but all wearing the same symbol, Maria whispered. "They're not hiding anymore," Harold replied softly. "They never were." Evelyn turned toward Michael Renner. "You survived because you were meant to remember." Michael shook his head violently. "You're sick." Evelyn ignored him. Instead, she turned toward the cameras. "Every system requires proof." She gestured slightly, and one of the masked figures stepped forward holding a small metal device. Maria leaned closer to the screen. "Oh, that's a detonator." Harold's expression tightened. "It's not an explosion." Maria turned. "What do you mean?" Harold's voice dropped. "It's a trigger system." Before Maria could respond, every monitor switched feeds again, now showing multiple locations at once. Abandoned cabins, police stations, old crime archives. Each location had a hidden device installed. Maria's eyes widened. They planted something everywhere. Harold nodded slowly, all tied to the original case files. Then the system began counting down. 0 hours, 10 minutes, 0 seconds. Maria shouted immediately, "Evacuate every listed location now." Agents scrambled, but Harold stayed frozen because he realized something worse. "This isn't destruction," he said quietly. Maria turned. "Then what is it?" Harold looked at the screen. "It's activation." The countdown continued. 0 hours, 9 minutes, 32 seconds. Evelyn's voice returned through the feed. "You think Zodiac was a killer?" She smiled faintly, but he was only the first message. Michael struggled in his chair. "You're lying." Evelyn stepped closer. "Ask him." She pointed off camera, and someone stepped into view. Thomas Avery. Alive, older, calm, watching everything. Maria stepped back slightly. "That's impossible," Harold whispered. "He never died." Avery spoke for the first time. "I didn't create it." He looked at Evelyn. "I inherited it." Maria's voice cracked. "Inherited what?" Evelyn answered softly. "A system that never stops." The countdown continued. 0 hours, 7 minutes, 12 seconds. Harold suddenly grabbed Maria's arm. "We need to find the original evidence vault." Maria stared at him. "Why?" Harold's expression hardened. "Because this only activates if the original files are accessed in sequence." Maria paused. "You mean the evidence box?" Harold nodded. "Box 14B, the missing archive." Maria turned immediately. "Then that's where they're controlling it from." Harold looked at the screen one last time. Evelyn was watching directly into the camera, almost as if she already knew what they would do next. And she smiled. The FBI evidence vault was deeper than most agents ever went. Cold, silent, controlled. Maria and Harold rushed through the reinforced corridors as alarms echoed behind them. The countdown was still active across every screen in the system. 0 hours, 5 minutes, 48 seconds, Maria spoke quickly. If the trigger is connected to box 14B, then whoever has it is controlling all of this. Harold didn't answer immediately. He was thinking, fast, too fast. Then he stopped walking. "This isn't just about access," he said. Maria turned. "What are you talking about?" Harold looked at her. "It's about sequence." Maria frowned. "Sequence?" Harold nodded. The original Zodiac files weren't just evidence. They were arranged in a specific order. Maria's eyes widened slightly. "You're saying reading them activates something?" Harold replied quietly. "Yes." The corridor lights flickered above them. Somewhere deep inside the building, systems were already shifting. The countdown dropped. 0 hours, 4 minutes, 12 seconds. They reached the vault entrance. A massive steel door stood sealed shut. Maria entered her clearance code. Denied. Harold stepped forward. "This isn't standard access." Maria looked at him. "Then what opens it?" Harold hesitated, then slowly placed his hand on the biometric scanner. A second later, the system beeped, accepted. Maria stared at him. "How did you—" Harold didn't answer. The vault door opened slowly. Inside, rows of sealed evidence containers stretched into darkness. And at the far end, box 14B sat alone on a metal pedestal, surrounded by warning labels. "Unauthorized access prohibited." Maria moved forward immediately. Harold followed more slowly. The countdown dropped again. 0 hours, 2 minutes, 36 seconds, Maria reached the box. Her hands hesitated for a moment, then she opened it. Inside was not just one item, but an organized set of materials, photographs, audio reels, handwritten reports, and one final item, a black notebook. Maria opened it carefully. The first page read, "Zodiac Protocol Index." Harold's breathing changed instantly. "No." Maria flipped the pages. Each page contained coded instructions. Not descriptions of crimes, but steps, processes, and coordination patterns between multiple incidents across decades. Maria looked up. "This isn't a case file." Harold finished her thought. "It's a manual." The countdown dropped further. 0 hours, 1 minute, 18 seconds. Suddenly, all the vault lights shut off. Emergency red lighting activated. A deep mechanical hum filled the room. Maria stepped back. "What's happening?" Harold's voice was low. "They've reached the final stage." The notebook in Maria's hands began to vibrate slightly. Then every sealed evidence container in the vault unlocked at the same time. Metal clicks echoed through the darkness, one by one, boxes opening, files releasing, decades of sealed Zodiac evidence becoming accessible all at once. Maria looked around in shock. "This is impossible." Harold stared at the opened containers. "It's not impossible." He swallowed. "It's designed." The countdown reached 0 hours, 0 minutes, 12 seconds. Maria grabbed Harold's arm. "We need to stop it." But Harold shook his head. "No." Maria froze. "What do you mean, no?" Harold looked at her. "Because we already did." Maria's eyes widened. "What?" Harold pointed at the notebook. The activation wasn't external. Maria looked down and noticed something horrifying. Every page she had turned had already been pre-marked. Her fingerprints weren't the only ones on it. Fresh ones were layered underneath, already there, waiting. Harold stepped closer. They needed someone inside the investigation to complete the sequence, Maria whispered. "Lucas." Harold nodded. "And us." The countdown reached 0 hours, 0 minutes, 3 seconds. Maria dropped the notebook. It hit the ground. Instantly, every screen in the building flashed alive again. But this time, not with data. With locations, hundreds of them, across the country, all activating at once. And at Lake Herman Road. Evelyn Grant stood in silence, watching the final system go live. She spoke softly. "It's awake now." Thomas Avery stood beside her. "And it will never sleep again." The entire FBI system went into emergency lockdown. Red alerts flashed across every screen in the building. Maria and Harold stood frozen in the vault as data continued streaming uncontrollably. Hundreds of locations, all active, all connected. Maria spoke quickly. "This isn't just a trigger anymore, it's spreading." Harold nodded slowly. It was never meant to stay contained. Above them, alarms echoed through the facility. Agents rushed in from all directions, but the system was already beyond manual control. The Zodiac protocol index had fully activated, and now it was replicating itself across every connected archive in the network. Maria grabbed a terminal. "Can we isolate it?" A technician shook his head. "No, it's propagating through internal historical backups." Harold's expression tightened. "They're using our own records as carriers." Maria turned sharply. "Who are they?" Before anyone could answer, every monitor across the building switched again. Lake Herman Road, live feed. Evelyn Grant stood in the center of the recreated crime scene. But now something had changed. Behind her, more figures appeared. Not 6 anymore, 12, then 15, then more stepping out from the fog, each one wearing different variations of the Zodiac symbol. Different decades, different styles, different identities, Maria whispered. "How many are there?" Harold stared at the screen. "I don't think that's the right question." Evelyn raised her hand. The crowd behind her went silent instantly. She spoke calmly into the cameras. "You thought we were recreating history." Her voice carried across every system. "But we were restoring it." Maria stepped back slightly. "Restoring what?" Harold answered quietly. "A network that never fully disappeared." Evelyn continued. "Every decade you called it solved. Every case you archived. Every file you sealed." She paused. "You were just preparing it for us." The screen suddenly shifted again. Multiple cities appeared simultaneously. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Sacramento, rural counties. Each location showing individuals activating unknown devices. Maria's voice tightened. "They're everywhere." Harold nodded. "And they were always everywhere." Then something unexpected happened. A new signal entered the FBI system. Not from inside, from outside. A public broadcast channel. Every television in nearby cities turned on automatically. Every phone streaming video. Every radio frequency hijacked. And the same image appeared everywhere. A map of the United States, covered in Zodiac symbols. Maria looked at it in horror. "This is global," Harold corrected her softly. "No." He pointed at the screen. "This is synchronized." The countdown system had disappeared. In its place, a single word appeared. "Complete." Then Evelyn's voice returned one final time. "You spent 50 years searching for one killer. But you were looking at fragments of a structure." She leaned closer to the camera, and now the structure is whole again. Maria turned toward Harold. "What does that mean?" Harold looked pale. "It means this was never about murder." Maria stared at him. "Then what was it about?" Harold hesitated, then finally said it. "Control." Suddenly, every screen in the FBI building went black. Silence filled the vault. No alarms, no feeds, nothing. Then one final transmission appeared, a single live camera feed showing Lake Herman Road. Empty now, no people, no structures, no evidence of anything ever happening. Just darkness and rain. Maria frowned. "They're gone." Harold shook his head slowly. "No." He stepped closer to the screen. "They've just stopped performing." Maria turned. "What does that mean?" Harold didn't answer immediately. Then he whispered, "Because the system doesn't need witnesses anymore." At that exact moment, Maria's phone vibrated. Unknown number, she answered. Only silence. Then a familiar, calm voice spoke. "You learned too much." Maria froze instantly. The original Zodiac voice, still intact, still unchanged. The voice continued softly. "But you still don't understand the ending." Maria gripped the phone tightly. "Where are you?" A pause, then the voice replied, "Everywhere the files are stored." The line went dead. Maria slowly lowered her phone. Harold looked at her. "What did it say?" Maria whispered. "It's not a person anymore." She looked around the dark vault. "It's inside the system." And somewhere far away, deep beneath Lake Herman Road, a final terminal activated on its own, waiting. The silence inside the FBI vault felt unnatural now. Not calm, not peaceful, empty. Maria stood still, staring at her phone like it might ring again at any second. It didn't. Harold broke the silence first. "It's not just inside the system," he said quietly. Maria looked at him. "What are you saying now?" Harold moved toward one of the open evidence containers, picked up a single file, then another, and another. "These are not just records," he said. "They're access points." Maria frowned. "To what?" Harold hesitated, then answered. "To places that still exist outside the system." A technician nearby spoke up. "All network activity just dropped to zero. Everything went offline." Maria turned quickly. "Offline doesn't mean safe." Harold nodded once. "It means hidden." At that moment, a backup generator clicked on somewhere deep in the facility. Emergency lighting shifted again, but this time, something new appeared on the walls, projected symbols, not from any screen, but from within the building's internal lighting system, Zodiac crosshairs. Maria stepped back. "That's impossible. That's not digital." Harold looked up slowly. "It's physical infrastructure." Then it hit him. Someone embedded this into the architecture. Maria's eyes widened. "You're telling me this building was built with it inside?" Harold didn't answer immediately. Then quietly, "Or rebuilt." A sudden alert came through a handheld radio on the floor. Weak signal, barely audible. Unit 4 responding, "Location breach, abandoned observatory." Maria grabbed it instantly. "Repeat that." Static, then clearer. "Abandoned observatory near Mount Hamilton. Unknown personnel inside." Harold's face tightened. Maria looked at him. "That's not in any current case file." Harold nodded slowly. "It is now." Without waiting, Maria grabbed her jacket. "We're going." Harold followed immediately. Hours later, they arrived at the abandoned observatory. The structure sat alone on a hill. Old telescope dome cracked open, metal rusted, windows shattered, fog rolled around the base like it was hiding something. FBI units had already surrounded the area, but nobody had entered. Maria stepped out of the vehicle. "What are we looking at?" An agent approached. "We picked up internal movement inside the structure 10 minutes ago." Harold stared at the observatory. This was never just a viewing station. Maria looked at him. "Then what was it?" Harold answered slowly. "A recording point." They entered cautiously, flashlights cutting through thick dust. Inside, the observatory was larger than expected. Multiple rooms, hidden corridors, old equipment still intact. Then they found it, the main control chamber, and inside it, rows of monitors, all active, all showing different locations. Not live feeds, historical feeds, every Zodiac-related crime scene, replaying in loops. Maria stepped forward slowly. "This is impossible." Harold looked around the room. "No," he pointed at the center console. "This is archival projection." A technician nearby checked the system. "These aren't recordings stored here." He swallowed. "They're being streamed from somewhere else." Maria turned sharply. "From where?" The technician hesitated. "From every recovered file in the national database." Harold's voice dropped, meaning it's everywhere again. Then one screen flickered. A new image appeared, a man sitting alone in a dark room. Face not visible, only silhouette. A voice spoke from the speaker system. Calm, uncontrolled, familiar. "You found one of my listening points." Maria stepped forward immediately. "Who are you?" The figure tilted slightly. "I'm not one person anymore." Harold's expression darkened. "That's not possible." The voice continued. "It was never about identity." Then the screen shifted. Multiple faces appeared behind the silhouette. Different individuals, different decades, all overlaid together. Maria whispered. "A collective," Harold corrected her. "A system." The voice spoke again. "You are standing inside one of the original nodes." Maria looked around the observatory again, slowly realizing. "This is where it started," the voice answered softly. "No." A pause. "This is where it learned." Suddenly, all monitors switched at once. Every screen showed the same thing: Lake Herman Road. Again, but this time, not empty. When a structure was rising from the ground, slowly, mechanically, like something buried beneath it had just activated. Harold stepped closer. This isn't reconstruction. Maria stared at it. It's emergence. The voice returned one final time. You were never stopping us. A pause. You were waking us. The feed cut instantly. All monitors went dark, but outside the observatory the fog began to shift, moving in patterns, circular, structured, like something massive was forming beneath the earth, Harold whispered. It was never a case. Maria looked at him. What was it then? Harold answered quietly. It was infrastructure. The observatory was no longer just a building. It felt alive. Every monitor inside had gone dark, but the silence was worse than the noise. Maria stood in the center of the control room, staring at the dead screens. Harold slowly walked toward the main console. His voice was low. It was never about killings. It was about mapping. Maria turned sharply. Mapping what? Harold didn't answer right away. Then he pointed at the floor. At us. A sudden deep vibration moved through the structure. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere outside, the fog around the hill began to rotate in perfect symmetry. A pattern forming. A circle. Maria stepped closer to the glass wall. Something's activating beneath us. Harold nodded, and Lake Herman Road was never the endpoint. A radio on the floor crackled again, weak, distorted, but still active. All units, unknown seismic activity, coordinates matching historical Zodiac sites. Maria grabbed it. Report. Only static replied for a moment. Then a voice came through, calm, familiar, the original tone. You built your investigation like a maze. Maria froze. Harold whispered, It's him. The voice continued, But every maze has an exit. Maria tightened her grip. Where are you? A pause, then the answer came. You're standing above it. The entire observatory lights flickered once, then shut off completely. Emergency systems failed. Night swallowed the building. For a moment, there was nothing. Then the floor beneath Maria's feet lit up faintly. Not light, symbols. Zodiac crosshairs glowing beneath the concrete, expanding outward. Harold stepped back. No, it's spreading through the structure. Maria looked down. The symbols were moving, like a circuit activating layer by layer. Then the ground trembled harder. A deep mechanical sound echoed from below. Not natural, constructed. Harold spoke quietly. It was never underground evidence. Maria looked at him. What was it then? Harold's expression finally broke. A buried network. The voice returned one last time, not from speakers, not from radios, but from everywhere at once. You searched for a killer, a pause. But what you uncovered was continuity. The floor beneath them began to split open slowly, metal structures rising from below the observatory, not ruins, not decay, but engineered frameworks, old technology layered with modern systems, all marked with the same symbol. Maria backed away. This was built over decades. Harold nodded. Generations. The voice continued, and now you understand. A final pause. There was never a beginning. The structure beneath fully activated, lights spread across the underground network like veins awakening, across cities, across counties, across every archived system linked to the original case, every sealed file, every forgotten record, every hidden trace. All synchronizing, Maria whispered. This is everywhere. Harold looked at her one last time. It always was. The voice spoke again, calm, final. You called it Zodiac. A pause. We called it structure. Then everything went silent. The observatory lights stabilized. The ground stopped shaking. The fog outside settled. Maria stepped forward slowly. Is it over? Harold didn't answer immediately. Then he looked at the horizon. Far away, multiple cities were visible under the night sky. Quiet, still, normal. For a moment, it almost felt like peace. Then Harold spoke softly. No. Maria turned. Harold pointed toward the distant skyline, because in every city, faint symbols had begun to appear. Not on screens, One not on systems, but in lights, in reflections, in patterns people couldn't unsee once they noticed them. The structure wasn't active anymore, it was integrated. Maria whispered, "So what now?" Harold looked at her, and for the first time, his voice was calm. "Now we understand what we were inside of." The wind moved gently through the broken observatory dome, and far below the network remained awake, not hunting, not hiding, just existing.